Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here once again with another video of DC TV and just the future of it because, wow, we got some interesting stuff to go over today. So, Crisis on Infinite Earths was filled with amazing moments that filled every episode of the 5-part crossover. There were many cameos, guest stars, and just great scenes in general with the already existing members of the Arrowverse that made fans very, very happy while watching. But outside of a certain quick speedster cameo that came and went like a flash or in a flash in part 4, I think the moment and just the fan favorite thing that I guess that happened that stood out for most people was the reintroduction of Brandon Routh's Superman into live action after its one and only appearance in the 2006 film Superman Returns. Of course, this time around he had gone through some serious crap, shall we say, with the storyline, or at least set up to the Kingdom Come story from the comics taking place on his home of Earth 96, where the Daily Planet was gassed by the Joker because he felt he wasn't getting enough attention, and everyone in there at the time died, which of course included Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, among many others. So this left this Superman pretty broken. But as we saw right at the end of Crisis in Part 5, when we had the, the quick scan through the new multiverse that was created by Oliver Queen as Spectre at the dawn of time, we saw that the Earth 96 Superman was still alive, he's still there, but this time he was back to a more classic looking Superman, complete with the red and yellow emblem, rather than the red and black emblem from the Kingdom Come stuff we had seen previously. Which does heavily indicate, if not confirm, that the whole Daily Planet gassing thing did not happen. Lois Lane is alive, Jimmy Olsen is alive, all is good on Earth 96, it's a much more joyful place, and this Superman is, he's much happier. But over the past, let's just say 24 hours, something pretty interesting has appeared online from a source that I would say is very reliable. There are reliable sources out there, but I would put this down as a pretty damn reliable source. Now, this has to do with a potential show or series based around the Superman from Earth 96 that we saw in Crisis, which really, when you hear that should just get you really excited. But let's actually go over what's being said. So this is coming from Ryan Unicomb, or it's Ryan Unicomb on Instagram, and I'm just going to read out his entire thing just because it's much easier, but I will leave his Instagram linked in the description down below. I would suggest giving him a follow if you are into DC miniscoops, and even just scoops in general and teasers and stuff like that. So yep, give him a follow. This is what Ryan had to say. I have heard this twice now in too close a fashion for it to be a false lead, so I'm willing to put this out there. Due to an overwhelmingly positive response to his brief appearance in the 2019-2020 Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event, actor Brandon Routh, producer Greg Berlanti, and a small collection of creatives originally involved in 2006's Superman Returns have met with Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Over the last few days to discuss the potential of a post-Crisis Superman limited series for the CW, or the more likely option, HBO Max. The outing would see Routh return as the titular character and reunite him with established characters in Superman lore. This would be developed alongside the recently announced straight-to-series Superman and Lois, also produced by Greg Berlanti. So, firstly, wow, that sounds amazing. I mean, seriously, wow. But yeah, so as Ryan said, he has heard this twice in a close amount of time from what we can assume is two different sources. That what is being said here is actually in discussion, that it is worth talking about and making public. Now, Brandon Routh left Legends of Tomorrow in October. At some time last year. That was when he filmed his last stuff for that show, but of course, he then went on to film Crisis on Infinite Earths as both Ray Palmer, aka the Atom, as well as the Earth 96 Superman. But since that, he hasn't been working, and since then, obviously, Crisis has aired, and the ridiculously positive response to his character's return would have been heard and seen from the higher-ups at Warner Brothers, or at least people that could relay that message and that acclaim to them. But apparently Brandon, Greg Berlanti, aka the King of DC TV, as well as some of the creators from the 2006 movie have met, which obviously wouldn't involve Bryan Singer, who was the director and also writer, for obvious reasons. But I'm guessing this would include maybe the original writers of the film as well, who are Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris. Now, Michael Dougherty wrote the most recent Godzilla film, so he has very recent connections to Warner Brothers as well. But what is being discussed is a limited series based around the post-Crisis version of that Earth 96 Superman for either the CW or HBO Max. And I think the obvious choice should be HBO Max for a few different reasons. Firstly, limited series don't really seem like a CW thing to do. They would want something with years of potential airtime. Secondly, budget. HBO Max would be able to invest a decent chunk of change into this project and give this a movie level look and feel, which, depending on the storyline they go with, would be pretty damn important. And lastly, there is a Superman show already in development that has been picked up for a series order next season on the CW. Already, that of course being Superman and Lois, and these two shows I think would be different enough in regards to what they aim to do, where I think they could coexist in the DC world, but on the different areas of the HBO Max streaming service and the CW network. And as it does say, the shows will be developed alongside each other. DC seems to really be going hard on the whole DC multiverse thing, which I think us fans have been telling them to do for years, to separate themselves and stand out from the competition. And as we saw in Crisis with the two Flashes scene, they seem to be open to it all. Now, in regards to what a limited series is, there's a mini-series, then there's a limited series. Now, a limited series is basically just a longer mini-series. It can range from, I think they'll probably go for like 10 to 12 episodes probably, but it can go higher. I think you can go up to about 20 episodes with a limited series. It's just that it's one season. It's just a story arc that's contained from that one season, and you don't go beyond that. Like Watchmen, I guess you could say, is now technically a limited series, even though there was the potential for them to do a season 2 and beyond, but they've just made it one season. So I guess that's technically a limited series now. But yeah, as it is said, the series would have Brandon Routh back as Superman and also reunite him with established characters in Superman lore, which, would suggest more than the characters seen in the Superman Returns film. But obviously would expect Lois, Jimmy, maybe Perry White, depending on when they set this, this story up, among others. But I guess another big question that would come with this is whether they would bring back the cast or the actors that played these roles from Superman Returns, or at least, some of the actors to fill some of the roles. And I think the main ones that would be up for discussion for returning would be that of Sam Huntington as Jimmy Olsen and Kate Bosworth as Lois Lane. I really like Sam Huntington as Jimmy Olsen, and like him and Brandon Routh have worked on things outside of Superman as well, so there is an obvious chemistry there which I think is needed for Superman and his pal Jimmy Olsen. In regards to Kate Bosworth coming back as Lois Lane, I'd like to see it. I know her as Lois Lane received a bit of a mixed reception from fans, but the story for Superman Returns didn't really facilitate an amazing relationship between the two, so I would like to see Brandon and Kate have another go at it with a more, kind script, shall we say. I know I've seen people campaigning that if they do something with this, Superman going forward, maybe they should have Courtney Ford, who was Brandon's wife in real life. She could play Lois Lane, but it'd be interesting to see what they do if this goes forward. Obviously, no Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor for obvious reasons, so I'd really expect, or would like to see at least, the three characters of Clark, Lois, and Jimmy from Superman Returns to return for this, and then bring in other characters from Superman lore, whether they be allies or some more devious personalities. But this does lead us into the story for this potential limited series. What could it be? Who could the villains be? What should we expect? Well, they could go for something new that was never really hinted at, which would probably be the most likely option. However, it would be interesting to see if they went with the plans and the story for the sequel to Superman Returns that, of course, never played out for a variety of reasons. But the sequel was potentially going to include Brainiac as well as Bizarro as the villains, which would of course be two villains yet to be seen in the films. Of course, we've had iterations of Brainiac and even Bizarro sort of in live action, but I think seeing them in this limited series would be pretty interesting. I would rather them not go for another Lex Luthor as the main villain at least. Like, he could be there, but just don't be the main villain. But someone like Parasite would be pretty cool to have in there. They could make it a bit more mature in regards, or like a mature rated Superman series, which allowed them to be a bit more grotesque with what Parasite can do, which can be fairly grotesque. But seeing it is a limited series which could have anywhere into the teens in regards to amount of episodes, I think Brainiac would be a good villain for that, a good main villain at least. I think he could serve that entire episode amount and story, and you wouldn't have to introduce him until maybe halfway through, and then have other stuff that leads up to that. But then you can also have a decent amount of other Superman villains show up throughout as possibly a part of whatever Brainiac might be aiming to do or anything like that. So you could have Parasite, Metallo, Lex Luthor show up for a bit, Bizarro. You could have heaps. You could do a lot actually with a limited series, and if they're given the good budget or a decent budget, you can actually do a lot that Superman fans would absolutely love. But yeah, that's pretty much all to talk about. I'm sure if this is going to happen, we'll get word of it. If it's in discussion now and it's actually like legit, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we hear about something about this in the next handful of months. Like, I'm not expecting something next week to be announced. It could. I'm not expecting it. But, you know, if this is true, which I'd like to believe due to the source, I'd assume we'd start hearing some rumblings over the next couple of months. And due to this, you might even get some people trying to pick and poke at people at Warner Brothers and maybe get even some more confirmation about it. So we'll have to wait and see. But of course, if you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know your various opinions on this in the comment section down below. Would you like to see this? What are your thoughts? Who would you have as the main villain? What other characters would you bring in? Let me know in the comment section down below. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.